Hi everyone, I'm Scott Davenport and welcome to ON1 Inspiration. My sincere thanks to ON1 for having me back on the series. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a landscape photographer and photo educator based in San Diego, California. And as you might guess, living near the ocean, I shoot a lot of seascapes. That is my passion, my subject of choice. But the photo I want to share today is not a seascape. It's something I took at the Grand Canyon recently. And it's a reminder to me about making time for your photography. So let me just give you a little context. My visit to the Grand Canyon was not a photo trip. It was a family vacation. And so that means I'm visiting the canyon between 10 in the morning, maybe until 5 in the evening, well outside the golden hours, those times where we have the great light for landscape photos. And the Grand Canyon's a fantastic subject. Don't get me wrong, you can get great photos at any time of day. But I left, the photographer in me still wanted a little bit more. So I decided to make it happen. The night before we were leaving Arizona, I decided I was going to get a sunrise photo at the Grand Canyon. So I got up at 2 in the morning and dragged myself out of my cozy hotel, drove 90 plus minutes into the canyon, hiked another 30 or 45 so I could get my sunrise photo. And it was an amazing experience. I don't regret it for a moment. I was tired the rest of that day, but I'm not tired now. And I have some wonderful photos and some great memories as a result. So what I want to share with you is actually one of the photos that I took during the hike before sunrise. It turned out to be one of my favorites. And I think it will really showcase some of the wonderful things we can do in ON1 Photo 10 to create a vision of what you experienced when you were on a location. I have 3 photos here in Lightroom of this old tree and a beautiful starry sky above the Grand Canyon. And why do I have 3 photos? Well, let's see. The first one here is really me getting my composition set up, and I hadn't done any light painting. I had a small flashlight that I just would paint the tree with. And so as it turns out, I'm going to use this one as part of the processing because it will make isolating the sky very easy. The next one is kind of my 30-second exposure, making sure I was getting a good star field, doing some testing and so forth. And you'll notice that I have an ISO of 3200, and that means it's a little bit lower noise. I'm going to press the space bar and kind of zoom in on the tree here a little bit. You can see that it's noisy, but it's not too bad. The thing I don't like is that I have a lot more motion in the stars because I shot for 30 seconds. So that, becomes more drags and motion in those stars. Then the third photo, same exact setup. It's all the same composition. I haven't touched the tripod, but now I'm shooting at ISO 6400 and only for 10 seconds. So when we look at that one, we look at these stars, they're a lot crisper. Now the tree is also a lot noisier. So what I want to do is I want to take the sky from this photo and the tree and foreground from this photo. This has got nice sharp stars. This has got less noise in the foreground. And I'm going to use this third photo to help make the masking easy when I get into ON1. Because everything is mostly dark here, I can isolate this sky a lot more quickly. But first, there's just a few things I'm going to need to do here in Lightroom to get the base processing done. So let's grab this one here. We'll go into the develop module and just do a couple of things. Let's zoom out there so we can see what's going on. So generally speaking, I like this base photo. I like the composition of it. There's a little bit of cleanup to do with these trees over in the right corner. That's something I'll wait to do in ON1 Photo because that has better tools for retouching in my opinion. And then everything else is looking pretty good here. So let's go ahead and just do some basic adjustments. I'm going to go into the basic panel, and white balance is pretty good actually to begin with as shot. I think I'm just going to nudge the tint a little more toward magenta. And that's just to get a little more of that twilight glow in the background center area there just behind the tree. Next is for contrast. When I adjust contrast, I like to use black and white modes. I'm going to press the V key and I'm just watching the preview window as I adjust the slider. Somewhere around there looks pretty good. V key again. Oh, it's already looking nicer. Those blues are really starting to pop. All right, white and black point, I'm going to leave alone. I know that the stars, particularly like this one right here, those are going to be completely white. And I've already got some clipping in the shadows. I don't mind that. For this photo, there's a lot of shadow, and that's okay. But for the rest of it, like highlights and shadows, let's open up the shadows maybe a little bit here, just to start to reveal a few more of the details in the canyon. I don't want to go too far. I really want this shot to be about the tree and the sky, and then as you look closer, you can see parts of the Grand Canyon in the background, so that gives us our context. Highlights, maybe tug those down a little bit. Again, I mentioned I was light painting with just this pocket flashlight that I had, so maybe for this 10-second exposure, I hit the tree with a one sweep of the flashlight for maybe 1 second. That might have been a little bit too long. That's pretty good there. Let's go now to clarity. Small touches here, just to give me an idea of what I'm going to be looking at. And the way I'm just working the slider back and forth, paying attention primarily to the tree. That is my subject, and I want that to be getting a little bit of detail. I'm not going to do much here. I think I will do more of that with dynamic contrast when we get into ON1 Photo. And add a little bit of vibrance to really get those blues going there. Something like that. That's pretty good. So really just a quick check here. \key from Lightroom. This is before those basic adjustments, and this is after. This is pretty subtle, and that's okay. Subtle is all right. That means we did pretty good with the initial exposure. Now what I want to do is I want to take these settings and apply them to the other photos in my set, so I have the same exact processing. So I'm just going to pick the next one over, and over in the bottom, click Previous, and that's going to take all the settings from our previous photo and apply them to this one. So now we're getting a much more similar look to the photos. If I move to the right, move to the left, things are pretty close. You can see the difference in that star field. Here's my higher ISO, shorter shutter speed. Those stars are nice and crisp. And here's the lower noise, but longer shutter, so my tree doesn't have as much noise, but the stars get a little bit blurred. And for completeness, let's go ahead and do that to this silhouetted version as well. Go ahead and click Previous on that. And that's going to just richen up the blues there as well in the sky. So with that, I'm going to go back to the grid mode. We have our three photos, a silhouette, a lower ISO, sharper tree, and a higher ISO, sharper sky. I'm going to select all three of these and send them into Photo 10, plug in extras, and I want to send them in as layers. So each one is on its own layer in ON1 Photo 10. Okay, so we have our three photos loaded into ON1 layers. Each one is its own layer. Let's rename them so we can more easily keep track of what we have here. So this photo on the top layer, that is our nice crisp star field. So this is the sky that I want to keep for this photo. So I'll double click that, call it sky, and I'm going to turn it off for a moment. Now here is the shot where we took a lower ISO photo. These stars are a little blurry because the Earth was rotating, but the foreground is going to be less noisy. So this one is where we want our foreground. And lastly, just have this silhouetted image. I'm just going to name it Silhouette, and you'll see I'll use that for some masking in a minute. Now, the first thing to do here, let me turn all these back on. There's a handful of things that I want to get done here. Number one is I want to deal with this area in the upper right corner of the sky and get rid of these few trees that are floating around there that aren't really adding to the photo. And the second thing is I want to mask, and so I can bring the nice crisp stars of the sky with my lower noise foreground. And then finally add a little more stylization to the overall photo and deal with a little bit of that noise as well. So to begin, let's start by cleaning up the sky layer. So I'm going to select the sky layer, and just to make sure we're working on the correct layer, I'm going to disable everything else. So the only visible layer is sky, right? Nothing at all, just the sky. So let's zoom in over here and see what we can do about cleaning these areas up. There's a few spots that I think will be light work for the perfect eraser. So I'm going to press the Q key, bring up the eraser, and kind of sweep through that little area there. And that guy there. And this one here. And probably also this little dot there and there. Actually, that one didn't get grabbed quite so much. There we go. A little better. Now this is pretty large, and there's a bit of variation between the blue that's down here and the blue that's up here. It's getting a little deeper. I give the eraser a try and see if it works, but I'm not 100% sure we're going to get a nice smooth look. Yeah, that's a little bit, I don't even know what to describe that. Looks like we've just introduced a new galaxy or nebula or something like that to the sky. Let's undo that. So I have a different idea of how to deal with this. Let me zoom back out. And since we want to just get some nice, cool blue sky that's up here, looking at this photo, there's another section of nice, cool blue sky over here. So what I can do is I can duplicate this layer, flip it horizontally so that nice blue sky that's on the left edge would now be on the right edge, and a little bit of masking to make those tree sections just disappear and be nicely blended. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take the sky layer and duplicate it. We have it sky 1. I will grab the transform tool, which is also the V key, hotkey, and just click this flip horizontal button. Press apply. Okay, so what's going on here? We took the sky, we've duplicated it and flipped it horizontally. So as I lower the opacity of sky 1, let's call that sky flipped. As I lower sky flipped, we're going to start to see our original photo creep back in. I go all the way down. We're effectively looking at the sky layer. I'm going to bring this back up some, and what's nice is we can see that the tree that's sticking out from the right border on the sky layer is not overlapping with anything else from the horizontally flipped layer. So what we can do is use that to our advantage and do some masking. So let me bring sky flipped all the way up to the top, or to 100% I should say. I'm going to drag the sky layer to the top of my layer stack. This is ultimately the photo that, this is what I envisioned, this is how I composed it, this is what I want to have finalized. And we'll grab a masking brush, the B key, and just start to brush away this area. And there is some cleanup I'll need to do with the gradient there. But now we're removing the tree branches and we're punching down and revealing sky flipped. If I turn off sky for a moment, we're revealing this area of the sky flipped layer. Now let's do a little cleanup on that. We'll grab the opacity of the brush, kind of bring that down maybe to 25 or so, and run another sweep around the edge of that to try to smooth out that coloring. And maybe also the blur mask tool. Let's see what we can do here by grabbing that around there and starting to smooth out those edges right around the mask. The nice thing about the blur mask tool is it only operates on the mask, so I can be kind of lazy with the brush strokes. I don't have to worry about bleeding over into anything else. I'm switching over to the brush again, the B key, to try to widen that a little bit. If I press O, we can see where I've brushed and where I haven't. Maybe even X key to bring back in. No, I don't want to do that. That's terrible. Let's not do that at all. Go back to the blur mask, which hotkey is hovering there. L. I'll try to remember that for the next round. Smooth that out a little bit more. All right, that's starting to look good. Now, there's still a little evidence of our masking there, but I know when I finish off this image, I'm going to be adding some vignetting, and I think that's going to help to even further blend that in and make it more or less unnoticeable to anyone other than us. All right, with that, we have a good looking sky. I'm going to take sky and merge it down. So with the sky layer selected, I'm going to click merge layer. That's going to combine it with sky flipped. So now we're back to our single, or our 3 layers. We have a single sky layer, a foreground, and a silhouette. Now the next thing we want to do is combine the sky and the foreground. Now this is where the silhouette layer is going to come in handy. I'm going to use that to do my masking. So let me go to the silhouette layer. Make that active, turn it off. The reason this is going to be handy is most of this portion of this photo is black, right? There's just nothing else going on. So with using the quick mask, I can make very, very quick brush strokes to get a good mask here. So I'm going to grab the quick mask, sweep it through the sky here, and let it do its magic. Okay, it did pretty good on the first shot here. Some obvious things we can clean up right away. Grab the B key. Oh, I want to bring that opacity all the way up for the brush. There we go. Don't need this area here. Now, why are we seeing this checkerboard? This is our bottom layer, and we're masking away portions of it, and so the end result is there's nothing beneath to be revealed. The other thing we'll do here now is switch over to the refine brush. Now the refine brush will take the knowledge that the quick mask has already gained and use it for cleaning up these areas, like these blue areas between these branches. So if I brush through there, we're going to see the blue parts disappear. That's pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to blend it in with the other layer in just a moment. Do that, a couple of clicks through here. Okay, maybe one more little sweep over in this edge here to get some of that blue out of there. Looking pretty good. Maybe a click or two there. All right, that's looking pretty all right. One more click there. I keep seeing little spots of blue now as I'm paying closer attention here. So we're going to click maybe one more there to see what it does. I don't want to remove too much of that foliage there. All right, that looks pretty great. So how am I going to use this mask? I'm not going to do anything else with the silhouette layer other than creating a mask. So I'm going to copy this mask. That puts it up on the clipboard. Okay, so what have I got so far? I have a mask that has removed the sky and is leaving the foreground. So if I now highlight my other two layers, what do we have? We have a sky and we have a foreground. If I take the mask that we created, paste it to the sky layer, that's going to remove the sky, right? You notice that the stars got fuzzier all of a sudden again. I'm now going to invert that mask, and now I have my crisp sky, my tree is now gone, and I have my nicer, crisper foreground subject, which is lower noise. We're going to take another quick peek around the edges where that mask is going to be meeting other spots to make sure it looks okay and make sure that the blend looks good. Especially in this area, we've got these trees moving around. That's actually looking really, really good. Over here, looks pretty good too. Okay. All right. So with that, I'm finished with the silhouette layer. I'll just disable it and turn it off. So I've done a fair amount of work in layers to combine these two photos using a third to help with the masking to get a solid image here. Now, something else that's great about layers is I can work on each layer independently and do various treatments on it. So I'm going to switch both of these layers to smart layers, sky and foreground. Now, what do I want to do next for the stylization? The sky was taken at a higher ISO. There's more noise in it. I want to reduce that noise. And then I want to add a little bit of stylization to the foreground. So let's begin by taking care of noise with the sky layer. I'm going to bring that into the Enhance tool. All right, in Enhance, I want to add noise reduction. Now, I selected the sky layer, which means the changes I make will only affect the sky. The masked part of the foreground we have brought in will not be touched. So in noise reduction, I'm going to go very strong. I want that sky to get nice and smooth. And let me zoom in at 100%, right in this area here, where we have the tree and the sky. Now watch what happens when I toggle noise reduction. Turning it off, a lot more noise in the sky. The tree has not changed. Noise reduction again, the sky's gotten smoother and the tree hasn't been touched. I'm working on the sky layer only. This is a really, really powerful feature of Photo 10. Now I don't need a lot of detail in the sky either, so I think I'm going to back that detail slider off in noise reduction because I don't need the sky to be crisp. The stars themselves, they're bright against the blue background. That's going to be okay. All right, that is it for noise reduction. I'm going to click Apply. That will apply this noise reduction, again, just to the sky layer. And we'll see when we return to Layers, underneath the sky layer, we have this little bar for ON1 Enhance. That's our noise reduction treatment. And the last thing to do is a little more stylization and punch for the foreground portion of it. So we're going to do that. Foreground. I'm going to click that layer. Again, I have it as a smart layer. I'm going to bring this into Effects. So in Effects, there's a few things that I want to do to make that tree stand out. First will be all-time favorite dynamic contrast. We'll click on that and apply. You notice that only the foreground is being affected. The sky is not being touched. We're working on the foreground layer only. Natural setting looks good. I'm just going to back off the opacity. It's a little strong for my tastes for this photo. Maybe just around 80%, just to nudge it off. The next filter I'm going to add is, it seems counterintuitive. I want to add a sunshine filter. And the reason is I'm only working on the foreground layer. It's going to do a couple of things. It's going to downplay the kind of midground, these background canyon or midground canyons, and the tree is going to jump forward a little more as a result. But I'm going to add back in a little bit of warmth. And since this is only affecting the foreground, it's just raising the brightness a little bit on the areas that have been well illuminated by my little flashlight when I was out in the field there. And so it's a nice touch. It's giving the photo a lot more dimension there, because the tree and the sky are really the things I want to accentuate here. All right, next is going to be an adjustment brush, this little patch of green grass that is reaching up from the bottom border. That's kind of distracting. I'm going to select the darken preset, and then I just have a brush. Let's make that brush a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to do Shift, left bracket, reduce my feather size, just kind of sweep through there. This be kind of lazy. This is a shadowy area to begin with, but just enough to take the edge off of that area so my eyes aren't being pulled to it arbitrarily. Now, last but not least will be a vignette. So let's grab the vignette tool, and I want to create effectively a spotlight on this tree. Now, I am still only working on the foreground layer. So you'll notice that you can see, as I've lowered the feather and the brightness, you can see the edge of the vignette, but only up until about we reach the sky area. That's exactly what I want. This is going to create almost like a bowl-shaped vignette, and the sky itself is already kind of dark and naturally vignetted by virtue of what camera lenses do for us, and just the general gradation of the sky that evening. So here I'm going to just start adjusting size. I want to make this very round. Like I said, almost a spotlight. Let's bump the size up some and grab the crosshairs and position this over just the tree itself. That's pretty cool. And then start cranking the feather back up, probably to about 80 or 90. And I think I need to back off the brightness a little bit. That's pretty darn dark in those corners. So let's bring that up somewhere around there, looking pretty good. Let me see before the vignette and after. Okay, that's pretty nice. Just drawing the eyes in a little bit more. So let me run down the stylization again really quickly. Added dynamic contrast. So that's from where we started, punching up the details on the tree. Added some sunshine. So that's downplaying the midground and accentuating the foreground, warmed that up a little bit. An adjustment brush to take care of this foreground grass, and then a vignette to finish it all off. And with that, I think this photo is done.